I got it right this time. I didn't have the other thing up while this was going, but I need to put that one back on again. How are you doing, everybody? Welcome in. It's Fireside Friday. Today's been kind of a shit show for me. Lots of things going wrong that normally don't go wrong. But yay, it's Friday though. I mean, that's cool, right? Am I right?
I love
So
it. I love it.
my guest today unfortunately had a last minute meeting scheduled, so he could not make it. But that's okay. I brought back Chase Vernon, one of my BFFs. So I brought him back to the show, everybody, so that he can help us out. And he did make me chuckle after a pretty crushing day. Not crushing, that's really exaggerating, but after a rough start to the day and a rough continuation of the day, Chase informed me of some decisions that he had made because he does early picks, everybody. Let me just throw that out there. He does very early picks to get the best lines possible. But after I've said that, Chase, why don't you go ahead and fill in the good people what happened?
Are we talking about the Cam Akers news?
Oh, we're gonna
Oh,
pivot away from your
I
poor choices.
I thought, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to pull those up on the screen or not. So, no, it was funny. I sent my
I
mom. And
didn't
I was
I
like,
didn't put him in the slides, so you just can talk about it.
okay, it's cool. It's cool. So, over the past 2 weeks, right, I've placed 6 bets on Sundays because I don't go all out. Like I have to really love my picks. Like when I do these pick'ems and stuff, and I throw money at it, like I absolutely have to love it. I normally go all out. I do technically, I guess I do 6 total picks. One 400 or one without insurance, one with insurance, as we talked about last week. And I sent her a screenshot of 5 of my past 6 contests. And 5 of my past 6 contests have had one injured player in each and every lineup that get injured during the game. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this up just to read through a couple for you, just so you know what I'm talking about. So I ended up playing in this past Sunday, Fields, Brissett, Fryermuth, Pittman, and Chubb. I hit on Fields, Brissett, Pittman, and Chubb. Fryermuth got injured, ended up getting out of the game, especially when Pittsburgh started to pass and their offense started to move a little bit, right? Then we ended up having Godwin, Fournette, Tyler Algier. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was the one that I hit on. The next one was Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan. Let's see. Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Breece Hall. Javonte Williams ended up getting hurt that week as well. I also had another one with Williams in it that was Brown, Jacobs, Aguilar, McCaffrey, Williams. Ended up hitting on that, except for, of course, Williams once again. I mean, it has literally been like nonstop. So this one had Fields, Damian Harris, Amari Cooper, Chris Olave, Geno Smith. Obviously, Chris Olave and Damian Harris ended up getting hurt. Damian Harris in the beginning of the game, and then Chris Olave at the tail end. So it's been fun for the past 2 Sundays. We've been hitting a lot of these bets, but what I want you all to do today is take 4 out of the 5 bet players that I say play and play those guys. Just do different variations of that, so that way we make sure that we don't give you guys an injured lineup like I've had over the past 2 seasons.
I know, and I hear you on that. I hear you on that so hard. So my husband will also do pick'ems because I do a Price Picks prop show for FTN Fantasy. Up there, you can see one of the logos up there for everyone who's watching on YouTube. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us here. I appreciate you. For everyone watching on Twitter, I'm sorry you can't comment. If you want to comment, head on over to that YouTube link I have in my tweet. And everyone on Facebook, thank you for joining me so much. But yeah, so mine has been like passing yards for Daniel Jones, like 225 and a half, and he gets 225. Yeah. Or like, you know, it has happened. I want to say at least 7 times that has happened to me so far since this week has started, or since the season has started. And I'm like, one more yard. Like that's all you needed was a yard. And I would have hit on all 5 and I'd be a thousandaire-ish as I sit here. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. But you did bring up some important news that actually Chase just brought to my attention just now. Tell everybody about what is the recent news that you've heard of from Cam Akers before I get into the details on my newest giveaway for the month of October.
So I don't want to speculate just because of the fact that, you know, we don't really know what's happening behind the scenes. But Cam Akers is actually out this week because of personal reasons. Sean McVay said they're trying to work through those personal reasons. So that makes me, or leads me to believe that it is with him and the club. It could be with him and football as a whole. We don't really know what's happening. I just put another tweet out to see if anybody heard any kind of update or anything like that. Haven't seen anything yet. But it's definitely something that's a little bit nerve-wracking in terms of like, hey, like this guy has had a rough start to his career, essentially, with
Yeah.
the injury. He came back way faster than he should have. He ended up rehabbing throughout the offseason, came back, still wasn't completely right. And then, yeah, like we have to kind of see where this young player's career ends up. And I'm a little bit nervous about it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a little heartbreaking there because Cam Akers is a talented young man, a very talented young man. He did win a Super Bowl ring, de facto right there because he came back and he crushed it in the postseason. We all had high hopes for him, but unfortunately, with no offensive line, that is really, really rough for the Rams. Also, on the newest injury news that I heard before hopping on, Cooper Kupp is also questionable, I think with an ankle injury. So something else to keep your eyes on. And I'm pretty certain that I have Cam Akers in one of my lineups. I need to go check that out and just pray that I hit all of them. And then maybe it'll just be a push and we can celebrate and go from there. But as promised, everybody, it is a new month. We do have a winner for the Michael Thomas jersey giveaway. I have already reached out to that gentleman, and your jersey is going to be mailed out next week. So yes, I actually do send these out. You're not just signing up and participating with my giveaway for absolutely no reason. And this month, Chase helped me decide which one I was going to do. And it is the signed, right there. I think you can see it right there. It is a Jerry Jeudy signed mini helmet. That is for you lucky participants. And it's very easy to do. If you have not done so already, please sign up for my website, Stepmom Lauren. Hang on. I had like some super fun things here. Subscribe. There we go. Yay. Subscribe at stepmomlauren.com. It's easy. It's free. Every time I put new content onto my website, it alerts you via email so that you can, read, watch, whatever it is that I'm doing for the fantasy football social spheres that I am participating in. Another way that you can do it is share this video. That's it. You can retweet it on Twitter. You can share it via Facebook. You can also do the same with YouTube. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I get detailed analytics about all of my social media stuff, so I know who's subscribing, I know who's liking, I know who's commenting, I know who's sharing. Get involved. That's how it works. Another thing, too, if you guys haven't done so already, we will be talking about some of these underdogfantasy.com. See, I'm already like, I just start drinking now and like heavily drinking just to start this Friday off right. But it's underdogfantasy.com. If you use my promo code SML, which you can see right there on the screen or in my background, I have it right there on my wall. SML, that is obviously an acronym for Stepmom Lauren. I get helped out. You get helped out because you get your first deposit of up to $100 matched, which is really fun. It's like free money to play around with. I really enjoy that. I took advantage of that with a different promo. And I tell you what, I'm still running off of my bonus $100 on like the picks that I'm making, which is super fun. I got lucky on a few of them, but that's what we're here for. It's fantasy football. It's not fantasy knowledge and fantasy knowing. Otherwise, it's like fishing. It's not called catching. It's called fishing. But we love to play this sport. It is always super fun. And when I say sport, can we consider fantasy football a sport? Should we like lobby for that? Should we get into the Olympics?
I honestly think that we should. I don't know why it's not already.
I know. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. It should be, right? I mean, it takes an exorbitant amount of knowledge to do what we do. And it's insane. So again, thank you everyone who has contributed, who has signed up for my website, who has posted and shared these video, and also who have asked questions. I do see we have a couple of questions in our comments already. Thank you everybody so much for doing that. We also do have one that was submitted on Twitter that we will be getting to later, but we actually have a couple of different lineups here. And I don't know about you, Chase, but I decided because there are so many amazing matchups, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, and then the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills games. I am literally going out of my mind for those two matchups. I'm so excited about it. But I decided to kind of look at a 1 p.m. slate and then the 4 p.m. These are obviously Eastern times slate of games. So I actually did two separate underdogs that I'm going to bring up to you. But first and foremost, let me go ahead and bring up this first one. This is my prize picks, and I don't know how much I love it. Like after I loved it at the time, and now I don't know if I love it anymore. But I'm just going to go through it real quick. Matt Ryan, he's always good for an interception. I mean, like death and taxes, Matt Ryan either getting sacked or throwing an interception. So I have the over on a half an interception for him. Tom Brady. Now, this is interesting because this is the combined stuff. This is the pass rush receiving touchdowns. Obviously, he's not receiving a touchdown, but I think that they really need to start passing a little bit more. They've got some healthy weapons back again, finally. You never know when he could do a spry quarterback sneak, but I think at 2.5, it's high. I was on the fence about it, but it is Tom Brady. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think he wants to, kick whatever reputation he's been starting to build here a little bit. So I have the over on a 2.5 all of those combined for Tom Brady. Kenny Pickett. This is interesting because I'm going under on Kenny Pickett. I hate the matchup. I absolutely despise it. Speaking of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not the pass attempts, because I think his pass attempts are going to be mighty, but I think his actual passing and rushing yards is going to be low. So I'm going the under on that one. Rams, they're going up against the Carolina Panthers. All right. Now, originally when I did this line, I actually had the Panthers at over, I think it was 1.5 or 2 sacks on Matt Ryan or on Matthew Stafford. Because I feel like that's also kind of one of those guarantees that Stafford's going to get sacked. And so now that I switched this back, I wish I could switch it back again, because now hearing this news that Cam Akers isn't going to be there, that is distressing. I don't like that at all. But I still think with PJ Walker at the helm for the Carolina Panthers, I think he may hold on to the ball a little bit too long. So 3.5 sacks, I think he can probably get sacked for four times in a whole entire game. I'm in on it. I don't love it, but luckily I only have like $10 on these picks. So if you disagree with me on this one, guys, do the opposite or just avoid any of these. Pick and choose whichever ones you want. And on Joe Burrow, I have him for over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Which one of these do you hate the most, Chase?
So I can't say that I hate it, but the Rams, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, as per one of my bets, the Rams defense doesn't get a ton of sacks. I believe they're averaging 2 sacks per game, but the Carolina Panthers have a very young offensive line. We could see that change easily. Like this week, we could see Aaron Donald come out pissed off and get 3 sacks by himself. He's
also questionable too, which I
didn't
know until after I made this selection.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, I don't know if they're going to end up, like, if Christian McCaffrey was out, I think they'd be a lot more likely. But with PJ Walker, you can always dump it off to him if he feels the pressure. We'll see what happens. I don't hate it, but I probably wouldn't make that bet. I have to love a bet in order to get behind it. I love the Kenny Pickett bet.
I just love throwing my money away.
I have the Kenny Pickett bet. I have under on 23.5, which we'll see here in a second. But I love your Tom Brady pick, over 2.5 touchdowns. This Pittsburgh secondary is absolutely demolished. We have, let's see, ruled out Minka Fitzpatrick, Cam Sutton, Angela Witherspoon, Levi Wallace. They're all out for the secondary. I mean, that's 3 of their starters right there on the Steelers secondary. So like I think that Tom Brady's going to go ham. Like you said, his weapons are back. They're healthy for the most part. We could see Tom Brady throw for 5 touchdowns this game. So I would take that over 9 times out of 10. I absolutely love that. I wish I would have seen that over under to place in one of my lineups. I probably will today.
I appreciate you not ripping that apart too badly. That makes me feel a little bit better. Now I'm going to go through these slides here. I'm going to put them up, and then you tell me which ones they are so I can get you to the right one. You said there was a Tom Brady one in here?
I think it was the first one. No, I said I wish I would have had the Tom Brady one. I think it was the one that you had up. Nope, not that one. That's my baby right there.
There it is.
That's my bundle of joy. My bundle of joy. Oh my God. I'm so excited to talk about this one. So
go for it. All you. Floor is yours, my friend.
You sure? You ready for this? You ready?
I'm ready.
Does everybody have their notepads out?
I added this to my slip and I put $25 on it.
I'll take that. Just hey, you can do that. You can do that.
Yep,
you got to do it now though, because by the time I'm done talking, I'm going to have everybody convinced that they should be playing this lineup. So it's going to end up changing the entire line. You got to go out there and you got to put it in right now. But still listen. If you're listening on your phones, make sure you just keep that volume on. So now I talked a little bit about like the pressure rates and stuff, and I want to start with the bottom on this one for George Kittle, because when we saw George Kittle go up against, or the 49ers go up against Carolina, they bring a pressure rate of 20.4%. Also with Denver, 26.6%. Kittle ran routes in those 2 games right just over 80% of the time, and his ADOT was 8.2 yards. So we didn't see a very deep average target.
I'm going to interrupt you really quickly. Sorry, Chase. For everyone who's not familiar with the term ADOT, it means average depth of target, just so you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he's not seeing targets down the field, essentially. And then he's blocking 1 out of every 5 offensive passing plays. So when they ended up facing the Rams, which was 2 weeks ago, which is how I know they don't create a giant amount of pressure on opposing quarterbacks, they force a pressure rate of 12.8%. He ran routes on 89% of the plays in that game, and his ADOT was right around 12. So he was seeing higher A dot by about 4 yards. He's running routes 9 times out of 10. He's running a route. So that's something that we want to see. The Falcons, they end up forcing 12.7% on their pressure rates. So George Kittle is likely going to be running a lot more routes than what we've seen. He's going to see a higher A dot. And with the Falcons on the outside, they got a damn good secondary for their young studs with AJ Terrell and the guy that's across from him. When we talk about Brandon Ayuk, he's not a great receiver. He's not somebody that's gonna beat double coverages or beat bracketed coverages. Deebo Samuel's been playing a lot underneath, but he hasn't seen a ton of work. And then the Atlanta Falcons up front, they're not great, but they're not terrible. So I think with George Kittle, we're going to see easily 43 yards receiving. And I think that we could end up seeing a touchdown. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this. I hope I'm not boring you guys too much. But when we looked at the tight ends that they faced so far, any tight end that's had a reception outside of Taysom Hill, because I don't really include him in the tight ends, every tight end they faced that has had a reception has had at least 18 yards. The least amount of yards from a tight end that they face in the starters is 43 yards. So if you think that George Kittle is going to have the worst tight end performance up against Atlanta that they've seen all season from a starting tight end, then go ahead and bet against the George Kittle, over right there. But I think George Kittle is guaranteed to go over. He has 4 receptions. I think that's cool. I think he probably has more than 4 receptions, probably around 5 or 6 if I had to put a number on it. And then his implied point total, because if you look at the 43.5 over under for that, and then the 4 receptions, that would assume that he's going to end up with 6.5 points. That would mean that his total, which is sitting right around like 9.5, I believe, would insinuate that he has a 50% chance to score a touchdown. So when we look at the rushing opponents that Atlanta's faced inside the 5, they've only allowed 1 rushing touchdown inside the 5. They shut down Nick Chubb on 2 separate runs. They shut down Kareem Hunt. So we can end up seeing George Kittle have to we could see Jimmy Garoppolo have to force red zone targets to George Kittle, which would lead me to say that he does have probably a 75% chance of getting a touchdown over there, hitting the over on the points. So I think that George Kittle is an absolute smash. You already talked about Kenny Pickett, so I don't need to elaborate on that. Saquon Barkley just has a great matchup up against Baltimore. They've just allowed running backs to gain receptions, and they haven't really faced anybody thus far. I mean, that right there, I love the Saquon Barkley matchup. Daniel Jones over under on rushing yards. That's just a given. He's running 9 times per game, I believe, and about half those are design runs. So we talked about Geno Smith last week and how we're smashing Geno Smith with the over on the rushing yards. I'm smashing Daniel Jones in the under or the over with the rushing yards. And then this game over here with J.K. Dobbins having 44 rushing yards, I believe, last week. I mean, we're all like, what the hell happened, right? When it came to the end of the game, he only played 2 of the final 3 drives. He only played 1 of the final 3 drives, and Kenyon Drake was in there. Everybody's questioning Harbaugh. They're like, oh, he's still on a snap count. Dude, the guy was efficient. He had a elusive rating over there for PFF of like 140, which I think is like the highest you could possibly go. I mean, he was moving piles. Even Harbaugh was like, oh, yeah, he was moving the pile. Like, anytime he got touched, he was gaining yards. He had a great game. And they're like, well, why do you need to use him 2 of the 3 final drives when you need your best players on the field? He's like, he'll probably see more touches, but he was on a snap count this week. It's like, what are you doing? He's going to hit over 44.5 up against the Giants, who have just, leaked yards to running backs. I think that J.K. Dobbins could easily see 15 touches. He's going to average more than 3 yards per carry. Get J.K. Dobbins over there on the over for the rushing yards.
I like it. I like it a lot. These are excellent ones. My buddy, Embarrassed, as we like to call. What's up, you crazy kids?
Yo!
What's up, dude? He says he needs to sit 1 out of Michael Pittman, Gabriel Davis. I would not sit Gabriel Davis. Jacoby Myers in order to start Kenneth Walker. So basically we're swapping out Kenneth Walker for one of these 3, which is Pittman, Davis, or Jacoby Myers.
I really love Kenneth Walker this week. I'm huge on him in DFS, which, if you listen to my show, Player Profiler here, that's going to be live at 6:00 with Jacob Sanderson over there on the Roto Underworld Network.
Plug. Boop, boop.
Yeah, if you guys listen, we're pretty much just going to gush about him and Eno Benjamin. I couldn't be more excited. So I would do what you can to get Walker in your lineups for those that are just curious. I would probably bench Jacoby Myers, although I do love Jacoby Myers. That's really tough for me to say. But I believe they play the Browns, if I'm right. Yeah, they play the Browns. Browns have been pretty solid up against wide receivers thus far in the season. This could be a slower pace of play type game. Um, you know, Zapp's played all right. Is it Zap or Zappy?
Zappy.
Bailey Zappy. Yeah, Bailey Zappy has played decently, right? But there's a reason why he was such a late pick. I know that Jacob Myers could be one of the only wide receivers healthy on that team over there, but I can't get behind playing a guy that has a 5 reception, 40-yard total, like, as this kind of not a ceiling, but like his expected output over a guy that could end up having 2 touchdowns and going to see the primary workload up against an Arizona team that is reeling hard. They are reeling real hard. So I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker and hope I see a few breakaway runs in this game.
Yeah, it's oof. I agree. I love Jacoby Myers, but I would much rather have Kenneth Walker in as well. So it's basically a good problem to have, embarrassed. Yeah. So don't worry, because you don't have any bad player in there, which is always kind of the solace you can take out of it. He also says, this is funny. You clearly don't know me that well, my friend. Lauren, you goof. When would you ever have time to drink with everything that I do? What do you think I'm doing right now? This is how I roll. I always got to find time.
I had a sip of whiskey right before we started, but I left
there
it
you
downstairs.
go. I mean, I'm not like I'm not the alcohol police and be like, oh, nor this is my own show. This is not affiliated with any of my networks. I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm doing this because I love hanging out with the people of this industry, and I also love hanging out with you. So if that means we can have a cocktail early on a Friday afternoon, let's go for it. And then good afternoon, Albert. How are you? And then Calvin Brown has a question for us too. In standard, one for the flex between Travis Etienne, Isaiah McKenzie, or Drake London. This is tough. I know my pick. I think I'm leaning Etienne on this one. What do you think, Chase?
I'm gonna go with McKenzie's out. So for me, McKenzie's out. It's right now it's between London and Etienne. Etienne seems like he's seen an increased workload every single week.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me a little bit nervous if Jonathan Taylor does not play, because if Jonathan Taylor doesn't play, the Colts have been absolute garbage. We could see it being a very low scoring game, but also if the Jacksonville Jaguars go up, we already see they're going to use James Robinson. They don't care about Etienne. So I need neutral game script, or I need a negative game script for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's why I'm hesitant as to deciding which guy I want to go with. Oh, I'll take Etienne. I'm on there with you.
Yeah, it's tough because you always love the upside of what Drake London can do. I think Khalil Shakir is starting to eat into Isaiah McKenzie's opportunities because of how explosive that he is. So for me, this one is going to be Travis Etienne, and just cross your fingers. Like, take some Pepto, maybe not watch the game, just see what the final score is. I also had a question from Andrea. I'm going to pop this up here. She submitted this. Hold on, let me go. Yep, she submitted this on the Twitter machine, and she needs one wide receiver and a flex between Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman, Marquise Brown, Eno Benjamin, and then Joe Mixon or Eno Benjamin in a PPR for RB2. So we'll get to that one second. So one wide receiver, one flex. Sutton, Pittman, Hollywood Brown, or Eno Benjamin. One wide receiver, one flex. Oh.
This is tough. We talk about
how are we this? I'm so low on Michael Pittman, and it all has to do with Matt Ryan, and it's blasphemous.
I got to see more out of Michael Pittman and Matt Ryan and that connection before I start playing him again. So unfortunately, I love Michael Pittman. We took him when we were at the Expo. That was my 3rd round pick, and everybody was like, "Damn, you took him early." I'm like, I'm really high on Michael Pittman with Matt Ryan when he's on. He started out week 1. I'm like, yes, I'm right, and then. Yeah, the rest of it happened. It all came down. So I need to see more out of Michael Pittman before we start to roll him out there. I need to see like 2 weeks of consistency before we start to roll him out every week.
Very hard to trust.
Yeah, and by the way, so we had Eno Benjamin. Oh, this was a question for Eno Benjamin. The Seahawks are really bad up against the running back. They've allowed 100 yards rushing in every game to the running back position. They've allowed over 150 yards in all but one game to the running back position in terms of total yards had. The one game that they didn't was up against the 49ers, who they still ended up allowing 137 yards to the running back position. That's got to be a high for sure. So I really love Benjamin.
James Conner and Darrell Williams are both out.
Yeah. So Benjamin for me. I mean, I've been waiting 2 years or 3 years now to start Benjamin. So I'm starting him no matter what happens this week. I don't care I don't care if I have Jonathan Taylor and like Saquon Barkley and CMC. I'm starting Benjamin. Okay, like I'm gonna be starting him. And then I'm probably going to fade Cortland Sutton and go Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown's ceiling is enormous, and I think we're going to see probably the highest scoring game. I know that everybody's talking about the Bills and Chiefs being like the game to watch for this week. I think the highest scoring game is actually going to be the Seahawks and the Cardinals. So I want points. I want the team that is going to get points on it, and I'm going to take my shot that the guys that are going to get the points are going to be Hollywood Brown and Benjamin.
And we are on the same page here, my friend. I'm going Marquise Hollywood Brown as your wide receiver, and your flex is going to be Benjamin. And the second half of this question for you, Andrea, is Joe Mixon or Benjamin? This is going to be an Benjamin over Joe Mixon for me. I know, again, I'm using this word. Again, it sounds blasphemous, but let's make a blasphemous lineup. Let's bench Pittman. Let's bench Joe Mixon and let's fire up those Benjamin shares, because this is really the only time that you're going to be able to get as much humanly possible out of Benjamin. Also, Benjamin, he hasn't really had the volume of opportunity that we would like to see, because he is an explosive running back. He is a really, really, really good running back. And the opportunities that he's had have been so few and far between. And when he was a rookie, I think he got a starting role because someone was hurt. I can't remember who it was. It was like 2 years ago. Didn't really do anything with it. So everyone's like, get out of here. And he's kind of been left by the wayside ever since. I didn't trust him before. I do now, especially because James Conner is out. Darrell Williams is out. It's going to be Benjamin, and it's going to be a rookie. First name starts with a K. I can't pronounce it. And then his last name is
Keontae Ingram, I think.
Keontae. Yeah. Keontae. And it was sounded like a wine. Yeah, I actually picked up Ingram from my Kings Classic League that I drafted in for Mike Clay from ESPN. I'm sorry, my friend. At least we are in contact about these decisions that I'm having to make. It's a difficult league. Okay, don't judge me, people.
I'm not judging you, but it is Benjamin season. I'm telling you that right now. Benjamin's about to have one. I don't care if he's chalky in DFS. I'm running him out everywhere.
I like it. I like it. All right, Willie Beeman, how are you, my friend? Smith-Schuster is the last guy on your half PPR bench. Do you keep him or look for the best guy on the waiver wire, which he believes is Brandon Ayuk, Romeo Doubs, or Michael Gallup? This is tough. It's half PPR. In a full PPR, I think I might hesitate a little bit more. I would try to bundle Juju away in a trade now while you can, especially if he's going to have a good game up against the Buffalo Bills. And then I might go for someone like Romeo Doubs, because those Packers, they've got to get their ass figured out. I can just say shit. It's my show. They got to get the shit figured out.
Yes, let's go.
I think the option best for Rodgers at this time is going to be Romeo Doubs. He's young. He has to get his NFL legs underneath him, which is one of my favorite phrases I like to use this season. So for me, bundle away Juju Smith-Schuster and pick up someone like Romeo Doubs.
So Juju's in a really, really weird case scenario, because he plays in the same part of the field as Travis Kelce. And so when you play in the same area as Travis Kelce, you're going to kind of get overshadowed to an extent. But God, we look at his numbers, right? And he's running all the routes for a Kansas City team that scores touchdowns. And he's seen targets, 8 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets. And then he had one game with 3. But I mean, at least 7 targets in 4 out of the past 5 games that he's played. He's running all the routes for Kansas City team. The yards seem to be there up until this past 2 weeks, and he doesn't have a bad reception percentage outside of last week up against the Raiders. I honestly would hold to Juju until you start to see him perform. He's got to get a touchdown. Like, he can't go this whole entire year playing Jacoby Myers type role from, Jacoby Myers past 3 seasons. He's got to get a touchdown in there. He's got to have some sort of a breakout game. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had like 3 in a row. And then you're not going to want to trade him. But that's when I would move him is weight, yes. Because you're talking 100%. About the last spot on your roster, the last spot on your waivers. And when it comes to, when it comes to Ayuk like Ayuk has no upside for me. I don't want anything to do with Ayuk. Gallup, sure, he has a little bit of upside. Not tremendous upside. Maybe when Dak comes back, he'll get a little bit more involved in the office as he gets, used to it, warmed up, whatever, back from his injury, gets the rust kicked off. And then Dobbs, we've seen what Dobbs does. And Dobbs has been fading. So, I mean, pretty much Dobbs' upside is Juju Smith-Schuster. I would rather have Juju Smith-Schuster hold on to him until he has a bigger week, and then I would trade him away, and then I'd go pick up a guy like Gallup off your waivers if he's still available, or one of these other guys. But honestly, like when it comes to waivers, I don't really pick up wide receivers. That's my stashes for my running backs.
Interesting. I like that take. I don't hate that at all. Another question here coming from Brett Thunderstruck. I literally jammed out last night with my husband before the game because we knew this game was going to suck. So I put on like Fleetwood Mac, we put on Guns N' Roses, and we have this whole home stereo system, like surround sound in our house. And we were just rocking out and jamming. And one of them was Thunderstruck from AC/DC. And it made me think of you, Brett. Don't get creepy with it. I'm just kidding. You know I love you. Happy Friday. Trying to plan for your week 7 bye. Well done. Who do I like? Brissett versus Baltimore, Pickett versus Miami, or Daniel Jones versus Jacksonville. And this is where I get weird, but I like Daniel Jones. I'm going Daniel Jones in that situation.
That's exactly what I was planning on going with. Daniel Jones with those rushing attempts. That's what I want to see. I don't hate Brissett up against Baltimore. He's been playing much better as of late. Baltimore's secondary has been absolutely garbage. So I don't hate Brissett either. But I think it's between Brissett and Daniel Jones for me because Pickett, I just need to see more.
Exactly. Wait a little bit on Pickett. He has so much potential. It may not come to fruition this season, but that kid has got some cojones. Like when not only how he plays, but his attitude and his mojo he's got going on the sideline and on the field, picking fights with D linemen and stuff. Like, okay, you do you, kid. But I think that will translate later on in the season. It's not going to be quite yet. And I like the upside of Daniel Jones' rushing ability, especially when it comes to quarterback sneaks into the end zone. So that's why I'm going to lean Daniel Jones here. We have one more from Brett Thunderstruck as well. He may have missed it, but you didn't. We did talk a little bit about Cam Akers, but what does that do on the flip side about how we feel with Darrell Henderson?
I've always liked Henderson, and now we're going to see a bunch of snaps for him, but this offense hasn't been moving. Like this offense has been meh. So like, yeah, you want to roster him if he's out there on the waiver wires because he's a starting running back and you don't get very many opportunities to grab a starting running back. But like, do I want to go out and play him up against like the Panthers or anybody? I'm not in any rush to. I think he's a good flex option if you need a guy in the back end because you got an injury prone roster or something like that. But I'm not rushing out to go play him. And also real quick to the last point, Daniel Jones, we're probably going to see a stock really kind of lift off this upcoming week. Or following this week, I should say, with all the buys that are going to be happening. But because Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson have to be getting close to return. And I'm
so excited for Wan'Dale Robinson. I cannot express how excited I am for this kid. I've never been excited ever about a Giants wide receiver, except for Sterling Shepard, only because there's a long, drawn-out backstory to that has to do with my mom who's passed away. It's like one of the reasons I love him so much. But yeah, I need Wan'Dale Robinson. I have no faith in Kadarius Toney. Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like if you like, I'm not even talking about rostering Wan'Dale Robinson or rostering Kadarius Toney. I mean, we're throwing to David Sills, right? Like we're throwing to these guys that wouldn't even make it on a practice squad right now because their top guys are hurt. I mean, Darius Slayton was literally borderline wide receiver 6 or 7 when the Giants came into the preseason, and then Colin Johnson goes down. Kenny Galladay's absolutely god awful. Sterling Shepard unfortunately gets hurt because I love Sterling Shepard moving into this season as well. Kadarius Toney's out. Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, that's 5 of the starting wide receivers are gone, and now he's throwing up to these guys that literally would not be on a practice squad right now.
It's crazy.
If it wasn't for the injuries, like they wouldn't. So now you talk about guys that are at least starters. I don't care if Kadarius Toney ends up playing 50% of the snaps and gets hurt because it's not about Kadarius Toney. It's about Daniel Jones. It's about Daniel Jones and getting his price elevated. So at least if you pick up Daniel Jones, you're ahead of the curve, and maybe somebody wants to make an offer for him, and you can trade him and keep streaming your quarterbacks as you should.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, one more question, and then I'm going to go through my 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. underdog slates real quick before we let you go, because can you believe it? We're already 35 minutes in, and that's absolutely insane. So this is from JD Smooth. JD Smooth, thank you so much for joining us. You know how much I heart you. Hola, stepmom. Hola, senor. Would you go with Isaiah McKenzie or Romeo Doubs this week? This is very, very difficult for me because I'm looking at the crazy potential of these offenses between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this could be just points galore, especially with Kansas City basically trying to bracket Stephon Diggs as best as humanly possible, which leaves open Gabriel Davis, leaves open Khalil Shakir and leaves open Isaiah McKenzie. But I do worry that Khalil Shakir, like we mentioned earlier in the show, is getting his opportunity eaten into just a little bit from Shakir. Now, on the flip side of that, we're talking about this Packers offense that is having a very, very difficult time. No chemistry, difficult gelling, but it is Aaron Rodgers. So for me, I think I might lean Isaiah McKenzie on this one, but I don't like it. Even as I say it out loud, I feel uncomfortable. Sorry for my dog barking in the background.
You're good. I mean, like if Isaiah McKenzie didn't have 3 touchdowns in 4 games, would we even be talking about him? Because he's only had like one playable start.
See? Arr.
But Dobbs, on the other hand, has been playing well up until recently. He had a rough game in week 5, but he still had 2 touchdowns in his 5 games. So he's only has 1 less than Isaiah McKenzie. Keep in mind, 1 game more than Isaiah McKenzie. But I mean, I'd much rather play the guy that's getting the targets, seeing the snaps, and running the routes. I mean, the past, so over the first 2 weeks, Romeo Doubs ran a combined 38 routes. Over the past 3 weeks, 35 routes run, 34 routes run, 35 routes run, and 36 routes run. So like he's running all the routes. He's on the field. It is for Aaron Rodgers. They likely will need to pass in this matchup. I'd much rather go with the guy that's going to be on the field running the routes and get to see the targets. We don't know if that's going to happen with McKenzie. He's going to need some sort of gadget pin in order to score, which could happen, but that's only 6 points, probably 30, 40 yards and 2 receptions, and that's what you get. So
see, this is why I love having Chase Vernon on the show with me. He sets me correct, puts my mind at ease, because I actually was going to say Romeo Doubs. Then I was like, wait a minute. I don't know if I like that either. Then I was like, well, that's great. So even us fantasy experts and analysts need a little bit of help from time to time. So thank you everyone so much for not only submitting your questions on social media to me so that Chase and I can help you out, mostly just Chase, because he knows way more than I do about this. And also, thank you for joining us today live. Thank you for rewatching this. I will be posting this video on my website, which if you are signed up for free at stepmomlauren.com, you can get access to all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's free on my website anyway, but as soon as I get time-sensitive information and content, you are the first to get it. And that's how it goes. It's super fun. Now, I'm going to put these up really quickly, and we don't really need to do some analysis. I just want to let you know. So in case you guys see something and you're like, oh, poor stepmom Lauren didn't get it done. I'm going over on a Patrick Mahomes interception. I know. We don't really talk about Patrick Mahomes and INTs, but I think this might happen against the Bills. Also, Will Dissly. Come on, man. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals. Give me Will Dissly all day long. Higher than 2 receptions. Yes, please. Arizona Cardinals are absolutely terrible. In fact, they're the worst in the NFL against tight ends. I'm going over on half of an interception for Matthew Stafford. And then I talked about Gabe Davis just a little bit. I'm going higher than 55.5 receiving yards because of what I think they're going to have to do to Stephon Diggs. Just leaves Gabe Davis. He managed to get 3 bajillion yards on 3 receptions last week. Okay, I'm being exaggerating on the amount of yards, but I think that 55.5 is doable. And then Ezekiel Elliott, oddly enough, has been getting semi-involved in the passing game, and this is Cooper Rush we're talking about here, not really airing it out that much. I'm going to go the over on Ezekiel Elliott with 2 receptions. And I'm going to go ahead and put these in my, let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and put these screenshots that I have here on the screen. I'll put those in my post that will go out to everyone who has signed up. Again, if you haven't signed up yet already, go for it. Stepmomlauren.com. It's free. It's right up there. You get your name entered in to win a signed Jerry Jeudy mini helmet. Also, if you sign up with the promo code SML at underdogfantasy.com, share this video, tweet it out, retweet, share, like. I get all those analytics. I get to see who's involved. So thank you everyone so much for coming and hanging out with me. And Chase, a huge thank you to you for joining me very last minute, having your shit prepared and ready to go. You know how much I absolutely adore you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, everybody. Enjoy your week 6. Good luck. Like I said, I took his lineup and I literally put in my own slip for it because you can do that. And so if I lose, I'm gonna yell at him. I'm kidding. No, I won't. It's gambling. That's just how that goes. Chase, tell everyone where they can find you before I let you go after I just interrupted you.
If you guys go check me out over there on Twitter at @FF_intervention, you guys can find a lot of the places that I'm at in my bio. So I'm not going to waste your time just going through it all. I'm just going to say go join us over there on youtube.com/RotoUnderworld, I believe.
Good stuff over there, people.
Yeah, it's great stuff. On our DFS show. Our DFS show is kicking off at 6 o'clock Eastern time here. So just 2 hours away, a little bit over 2 hours away. Jacob and I will be going through these matchups. We have 4 or 5 games we're really going to dive deep into. one of them being the Seahawks and Arizona Cardinal games. I'm going to tell you guys why that's going to be the highest scoring game on the entire slate and why you want
And Will
every
Dissly is going to
asset you
get more
can.
than 2 receptions, right?
I have the over on Will Dissly. I have the over. He's a player outside the top 15 for me tight end wise that I think has a chance to finish inside the top 5 for tight ends. So obviously he has to have more than 2 receptions for that to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited about this.
Unless you're
Yay.
Gabe Davis, which I guess it took him 3 technically, but he could have done it too.
Schmuck. How dare he? All right, everybody, enjoy your week 6. Good luck in all of your fantasy lineups. Good luck in all of your bets, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. If you do, just do it slightly safer than I normally would have done. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.